So again, my name is Emily Hill, and I am so excited to talk to you today. We're going to talk about how you can land a six-figure job as a developer in 6 months. And I want to make sure before we get started that you can get absolutely everything you can out of the event today. So I'm going to probably be asking you questions. And so you guys have been rocking it in the chat. You can keep doing that. You can also raise your hand, on your video, or you can raise your hand on Zoom, whatever works for you. Love it. Oh, Vancouver, beautiful, beautiful location. Love that city. Awesome. So if you have a question while we're talking, please don't hesitate to put it in the chat. If I can answer it quickly while we're going, I just will. Others, we may have to wait for the Q&A at the end, but I'll let you know that and I'll note it down to make sure that we get everybody's questions answered, or at least as many as we can. And we can also continue the conversation after the event, and I'll share details with you about how to do that later on. Awesome, awesome. Super, super excited. This is going to be so great. So again, I'm Emily Hill, and I am the founder of the Joy of Coding Academy. And my day job has been as an associate professor of computer science. I've been a professor for over 10 years. I've also been a coding career mentor for a ton of students. And I'm the mom of 4, soon to be 5 kiddos. So parents in the house, I feel you wherever you are. For sure. Love it. Love it. Awesome. Awesome. So I'm just curious, how many of you are ready to become a 6-figure developer? Can you guys raise your hand or post in the chat? So who's ready to become a 6-figure developer this year in 2022? Just let me know. Yes, love it. Shelby's ready. Farouk's ready. Natasha, yes. Rold, yes. Ruby, everybody's ready. Loving it. Oh, love that fire. That's awesome. You guys are rocking it. Thank you. That is awesome. You guys are being an amazing audience. Keep up the good work because you are going to get a ton out of our session today. Love it. Love it. Let's get started. So I want to start with a question for you guys. It's a total guess. It's a total guess. So, before I shared that strategy of how to become a 6-figure developer in 6 months, would it be okay if I shared a little bit about my background of how I learned to become a confident coder? Okay. So I want to share it. Awesome. And I have a question for you just to start. How many years do you think it took me to learn how to code? Don't worry, you won't embarrass me. I can take it. But how many years do you think it took me to learn how to code? Just throw it in the chat. 1, ooh, less than a year. Oh, you guys are good. Oh my goodness. Months, 2 years, or 5. Oh my goodness. 4. Shout out to all the moms. That's right. 1. Ooh, you guys are telling me it only took 1 year. 5 years. Ooh, that's the closest so far. 8. Oh, we're getting really, really close. Would it surprise you guys to know that it took me 6 years to learn how to code? Now, I'm not saying it needs to take you 6 years, but I'm saying that's what it took me. That's why I'm here today, is to help you fast track it, because I don't want you to have to take 6 years. Yeah, I'd love it if you guys were less than a year to get to where I did. So I spent 6 years trying to learn how to code. I started my senior year of high school. There was this really kind kid in front of me. I really had no clue what was going on. We'd get problems. I would try to type it. The kind kid in front of me would try to help me, but it was like he was speaking another language. How many people ever had that? When just raise your hand, show of hands, who's like try to talk to somebody who's really good at something, and it's like you're talking 2 different languages. And you learn how to code doesn't mean you stop learning, right? Yes, yes, that's good. But has anyone ever had that experience? Yes, I see it, right? Where we try to talk to somebody who's super knowledgeable and it's just not getting in there, just not getting in there. Awesome, awesome. So that was me in high school. And I was like, oh, well, I'm going to go to college. Let me get a computer science degree. Then I'll know how to code, right? Like that's traditionally what society shares with us. Okay, so I tried it. And I still didn't know how to code. And it wasn't like I didn't do the work. I had a 4.0 my final 2 years of college, which in the US is the highest grades you can get. So I was acing my classes in computer science, but I didn't know how to code. Okay, what's going on here? And so I was afraid to apply for jobs, honestly. I was like, what computer science graduate doesn't know how to code? So I didn't even apply to jobs. I was just so afraid someone was going to figure out I was a fraud, which in hindsight, in reality, a lot of computer science grads didn't know how to code, but I didn't know that at the time. So I thought, okay, let me try more school because that's been working so well. Let me go to grad school. Let me kick it up a notch. Right. And so I went to graduate school to get my master's in computer science. And what happened is I didn't necessarily get any more support to learn how to program from my professors. But what happened is they raised the level of the assignments to be harder. So their expectations were higher. So what ended up happening, I was in this pressure cooker where it was do or die. It was either learn to code or fail out of grad school. So I taught myself. At the end of the day, I taught myself how to code, even though I was getting all of these degrees. So finally, I figured it out on my way to getting my PhD in my second semester of graduate school. And after I finally figured out, I realized it didn't need to be that hard or take that long, right? The shift from confused to confident can be as simple as a tweak in your thinking and your approach to learning. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So I made it my mission after it took me 6 years and misery to learn it, to make it easier for anyone else who wants to learn it. That became my mission. And in fact, it took me just as long to learn how to teach it well. It took me 6 more years to figure out how to teach it to absolutely anybody. So yeah, it's been a journey. 6 years instead of 6 months. Yes, it can take 6 months. I've seen it take 6 months, but yes, it took me 6 years. So just full disclosure, I just want to let you know where it can be. But really, once I finally figured it out, it wasn't 6 years, right? I spent all these years spinning my wheels and then it clicked. So let's talk about that a little bit, right? Like, what changed? How did I go from confused to confident? Right? Like what was going on? So when I first started learning to code, like this is high school, this is college, I was fairly young, but I was doing a lot of things, had a lot on my plate. I didn't have time. I was too busy. This was excuses, Emily. So excuses, Emily was having trouble learning how to code. The paid courses I had from my professors weren't helping. I was totally overwhelmed by all the information that was available. Books, videos, code alongs. Anybody else ever feel like that? Like with the internet, there's so much out there, but like what do you learn, right? It's so easy to get overwhelmed. And I didn't know how to debug and solve problems. So when I'd get in front of the computer and type some code and it didn't work, I would just stare there and not have any clue what to do, like to solve my problem. So I couldn't move forward. So that was excuses, Emily. That was excuses, Emily. And then I shifted. I had my confidence shift, my breakthrough to become elite coder, Emily. And here I mastered the fundamentals. So imagine trying to learn to read and write any language without knowing the alphabet. It's going to be really hard, right? Like you can't pick up a new language before you know the alphabet. The same is true for programming. So I had to really master these fundamentals, these 7 basics, which we'll talk a little bit more about today. I learned tools. I found mentors. I worked with people to help me learn how to debug and solve any coding problem quickly and easily. And once I had this process down, I had the confidence to take on any project, right? Because now I knew when I hit a snag, I had a systematic process and way of overcoming it. I also learned to create elegant code. So code that really looked nice and communicated the level of my abilities, right? So I shifted from a novice coder to a new coder to someone who's on the path to 6 figures. And so I started learning the art and science of programming. Awesome. So just out of curiosity, who's ready to learn that path to become a 6-figure developer, like elite coder Emily? Not the 6-year struggle, but that 6 month transformation. Who's ready? Who's ready for that? Awesome. So just let me know. Yes, love it. Ruby's ready. Prem's ready. Rold's ready. Love it. August is ready. Yes. Let's dive in. Let's talk about that. All right. Love it. So first, what I want to do is walk through that roadmap of these 5 essential skills that we want to learn to land 6-figure jobs. Okay, cool. And I do have a question in the chat. I just want to pop over to that. So apologies, a question by Akash. Fundamentals, do I mean theory of programming or something else? Ooh, so good. I'm actually going to talk about that right now. So let me put the bullet up and then I'll dive into a little bit more detail. Awesome. Hopefully you're already on it. Love it. Hopefully you are already on the path, Michaela, to becoming a 6-figure software developer. Love it. Awesome. So first, we had mentioned the fundamentals. And so that's the elementary foundations. And so I referred to these before as the 7 basics of programming. And so these 7 basics, they're a combination of theory and practice. So, because I want to answer Akash's question. Basically, the 7 basics are these fundamental building blocks that can be used to create any program that's ever been written in any programming language. So you've probably, if you've tried to learn to code at all, you've probably already heard of them. Things like variables, loops, functions, lists, things like that. There's 7 of them, but these are the fundamental building blocks of any programming language. So once you master how to use them to solve problems, you can use any programming language to solve whatever problems you want. You can use the right tool for the job. So these 7 basics form those fundamental building blocks, the alphabet of programming, right? Like they become what we're working on. And so, one way to think about this is I hear a lot from aspiring developers, what do I learn? Which language should I learn first? And they seem almost panicked about it. When in reality, it doesn't always matter exactly which language you use first. I will talk today about the one I recommend, but there are many paths. Really, programming languages are just tools in your toolbox. Think about screwdrivers, right? A screwdriver, once you learn how to use it once, you can probably pick up another screwdriver fairly easily, right? And use that one instead. They come in different shapes and sizes. The same is true for programming languages. Okay, I know programming languages are a little bit more complicated than a screwdriver, but the idea is the same, that once you master these 7 basics, then you're ready to tackle projects in any programming language. Awesome. So Sunny said, so to struggle with learning a data structure tree. Yeah, absolutely. Trees are a great place to start. In fact, they're in the 2nd tier of learning 6-figure software developer secrets of success as well. So we want to focus on the 7 basics, learn that problem solving, deepen it with things such as data structures, as Sunny mentioned. And then we want to learn how to make our code look at the 6-figure level. Right? Because 6-figure developers think a little bit differently about their code than someone who's just starting out. When we just start learning to code, we're focused on the functionality. How do we get it working? But when we become a 6-figure developer, we're focused on how do we work in a team to deliver software that works. And so a 6-figure developer knows that their code is not only functional, but it also communicates with other developers. And so that shift changes how you create the code and what it looks like. So we want to learn those habits. And in fact, they don't take any longer necessarily to learn, but we just need to know what they are. And then we can practice them the whole time while we're learning those basics. And so to think about it this way, to give you an example, think about annoying writing. Right? Somebody who writes and it's all in caps, the punctuation's off, the spelling's off. What does that tell you about them? Like, do you feel like confident in what they're creating? Not so much, right? Not so much. And so what we want to do is create clean, elegant code that showcases that we're on our way to the 6-figure level. All right. And so one of the tools that I recommend for that is something called Dry. Don't repeat yourself. And I'm happy to go into that more detail during Q&A time if you guys want to learn more. Happy. If you're raising your hands, I'm not going to answer questions that require unmuting right now. So if you have a question while I'm talking, please put it in the chat. And then at the end, we'll have an opportunity for us if you want to unmute and ask your question then. Okay. Thank you so much. Once we've learned these fundamentals, these basics, and we've learned, how do we make our code look really, really clean, we also want to then investigate the latest technologies to build out our custom portfolio showpiece project. So in this step, we're going to be learning how to learn. We're going to be engineering and building and debugging. And so really as developers, it's really cool. We get paid to learn all the time. And I know, I'm sorry, the name escapes me, but I know someone had mentioned that before, like, well, we're learning how to learn, right? Like we're learning all the time as programmers. Absolutely. Because programming and frameworks and languages and libraries, they change all the time. Like we have to learn. It's just the pace of the industry is moving so fast. So now we want to start, once we have mastered those fundamental basics, we want to start pulling off the training wheels and investigate the latest technologies and learn how to learn for ourselves with support, right? We want to have support in that process. We want to work to build a custom portfolio showpiece project that reflects the career path that we're trying to go. Maybe it's web development, maybe it's mobile, maybe it's data science, whatever it is, you want to start honing in and diving into that. And you want to focus on picking the right tool for the job. Pick the language and framework that's going to make your job easy. Awesome, awesome. Now, the next step is really, really key, because this is a step I've shepherded tons of students through, and they've been so successful in landing those six-figure jobs. Creating a team project where you collaboratively deliver working software to ideally a professional client, someone who is acting in their professional capacity. It could be a friend or relative, but ideally they're acting in their professional way. It's not just somebody who thinks it'd be cool to have this software, because this is where you're going to get so much value out of the experience. If you want to become a six-figure developer, we become one by working like one, right? We don't get what we want in life, we get what we are. So if you already are the six-figure developer, the jobs will come more easily. Six-figure developers work in a team. They collaboratively deliver software that works and solves someone's problems. So if you're already doing that, you've already become the six-figure developer, and the jobs, they come much more easily. And it gives you this confidence, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And finally, once we've accomplished all of these things, we will easily exceed employer expectations and land that dream six-figure job. And that's really the goal. Awesome, awesome. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. I'd love to hear them, love to answer them as we're going. And now, I said, here's the 5 essential things, but I also made a promise to you today, and that was, well, what does it look like spread over 6 months? Like, how do we go from these steps, these 5 essentials, to that 6-month process? So let's walk through what that actually looks like. Oh, I had a question about how to get internships. Awesome question. I'm going to write that one down for the end, because I think there's others that might piggyback on that. All right. So Prem internships. Awesome. Awesome. I will happily answer that. Love it. Love it. All right, cool. So let's map out what these 6 months can look like for you. All right, so in the first month, we're really focused on those elementary foundations, those 7 basics. And then in the next month, we're going to learn those 6-figure software developer secrets of success. We're going to continue polishing our code, honing our development best practices. And eventually, by around month 3 or so, we're going to be investigating and building our own custom portfolio showpiece project. And also, so this goes into Prem's question about how to get an internship or a job. We're going to practice what's called elite code style problems. Think elite code. So there's a ton of websites that help you do this. HackerRank, LeetCode. I prefer HackerRank, but really whatever one works for you. And there's tons of problem-solving problems that you can use to practice your coding skills. And so these are the type of problems that typically show up on something called a technical interview when you go to apply for jobs. So while you're building out your skills with like one strong portfolio showpiece project, and to be honest, it may not even need to be finished. Many people get jobs partway through their projects, but while you're building that showpiece project for your portfolio, you'll want to also be practicing your problem-solving skills in a way that'll prepare you for the next step, that technical interview, whether it's for an internship or some other type of job. And then once we've kind of started investigating and mastering some kind of a framework or a more advanced application, like a web program, mobile, whatever it is, that's when we want to shift and transition into the team portfolio project. And this is where we're collaboratively working together with others to deliver software to the client. And so we want to make that shift around months 3 or 4. And when you make that shift to a team project, you can also simultaneously start looking for jobs, right? It doesn't have to happen one after the other. And so you want to start looking for jobs, practicing interviewing, and then nail it, right? Exceeding employer expectations, apply and land that dream 6-figure coding job. And while you're working on that team portfolio project, you can continue to apply for jobs. And for some, it may take longer than 6 months. The average length of time in the US to get a job is 6 months. So it could take longer, but the preparation for applying for the jobs can occur within that 6-month period. Now, does this sound doable for 6 months? Does anybody have questions? Oh, good. I see some questions. So Abdullah said, how would you go about hiding and building a network outside of college? So it's tough to make a team project without a team. Yeah, great question, Abdullah. So there's a ton of groups out there. I'm familiar mostly with the Facebook groups. I suspect there are other people learning to code that would love the opportunity to collaborate on a project for that. I also help shepherd my students through this experience, and I'm happy to talk further about that. But there's a ton of ways that you can collaborate with teams. Michaela said you'll probably tell us, but wondering how to find a client and how to get an idea for a team portfolio project. Yes, excellent question. So when you're looking for a good team portfolio project, if you have a friend or relative, ideally you could always find the team first, and someone in that team probably has a friend or relative that could benefit from some software, right? And so maybe somebody needs a website, maybe somebody would love a mobile app, whatever it is, and then you can get started. The best way to learn it though and master it is if you can kind of find someone who's a little bit more expert and kind of apprentice with them to help you show you the ropes. So, that's the model that I use, but again, there's many paths for that. And then good. So Prem is asking more questions about the team portfolio project. Please, Prem, I just mentioned it a little bit more, and I'm going to dive into it a little bit more deeply. So please don't hesitate to ask a follow-up question. Matthew, the secret to 6 months sounds like scheduling it with work and life. Yes, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm going to tell you what the shape of that can look like in just a second. Yeah. And Ruby, I don't know if it needs to take longer, even though you work. I help a lot of students through this who do work full time, and I'll get to that. Feels a little overwhelming trying to learn everything I need to know without absolutely zero background. That's because, Shelby, it's all about the process, and the process can be taught much faster than every single detail you would ever need to know. No one knows absolutely everything about technology. You need to know enough to achieve your goal, which that's why we focus on these portfolio projects, because it helps you cut out the noise of what to learn. Ruby's asking about roles on your team. That's a great question, Ruby. I don't have time to get into that today, but I'm happy to talk more about it. And then also Gary had a question about jobs. So I will totally talk about that at the end. Maybe attend a hackathon and recruit teammates. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Oh, these are great questions. You guys are doing awesome. Now, one thing I want to clarify, because I promised 6 months and I showed you the path for 6 months. But what do I mean in terms of hours per week, right? Like, I think, let's see, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name. Someone had asked about, Ruby had asked, she works, so it would need to take longer. Okay. Well, I'm not talking 40 to 60 hour weeks, believe it or not. I know some boot camps that do that. And to me, that's totally pointless. We want to learn to work smarter, not harder, right? So how about more like 10 to 15 hours a week? Right? Does that sound more doable to you? So let me show you what that roadmap looks like. So we want to maximize our learning, and we want to learn smarter, not harder, and avoid burnout. Because to be honest, the best developers invest their time like the precious resource it is, and understand that code is not just functional, but also means of communicating. So they're going to look for ways to be more efficient, and those investments are going to pay off. So we want to learn to work smarter, not harder. So do the pros. So do the six-figure developers, right? There's no awards for the most time spent learning, right? So if we can do it faster in less time, then why not do it, right? So the goal here is 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Or if you work and so your schedule doesn't align with that, you could do 10 to 15 hours on the weekend. But the most efficient is going to be a couple hours a day, because you can then post to Facebook groups or discussion networks, or if you have a mentor that you're working with, you can post questions to them, and they can be getting back to you and helping you along over obstacles while you're doing other things like spending time with your family, sleeping, eating dinner. Like, imagine if you could get support while you're doing other things, and your learning could continue progressing because you're asking the right questions of different people. Awesome. So yeah, awesome, Shelby. Yes, you are doing enough. You're totally doing enough. Awesome. All right. So we want to focus on working smarter, not harder, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And this is why it's essential that we focus on fundamentals, and we don't get bogged down in the details of like, where does this one curly brace go? Or where does this semicolon go? We want to focus big picture on the fundamentals that cut across all programming languages. And that's what we want to focus on. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna summarize and dive a little bit deeper into some of those elements we've been talking about today. So we're gonna master the 7 basics. Now, you can master 7 basics in any coding language. I personally prefer Python, and I'll tell you why. It takes just a month or two at most. And so this is not like your final language. It's not like I'm saying, okay, learn Python and don't learn anything else. I'm saying Python is a great starter language to master the fundamentals and the basics of problem solving, because Python is the language that we have that's closest to English right now. So it's easiest to see quick wins. Imagine you did a diet program where you didn't see results for 5 months. Are you going to keep doing it? No, right? Who's going to do that? No. So by getting a quick win, it helps give you confidence and momentum to carry you forward as you keep learning through when things get challenging, right? So at some point, learning to code is going to get challenging. So by having a language that's easy to see a quick win, you'll build up that confidence, that momentum. And then the other reason is that actually a lot of people want to be web developers and they're like, I'm going to learn JavaScript. And while that's great, I find that it can actually be more challenging to start in a language like JavaScript, because web systems are some of the most complicated systems that we have in technology. And it ends up promoting a style of learning that's not based on mastery. It's based on confusion and hacking things together. So Python has another advantage. It's used all over the place, from data science to machine learning to also web backends, right? It's not like it's kind of an all-purpose language. And it's small enough, it can be run in a small enough container that you can fully and completely understand everything that's happening. So it promotes deeper mastery of these fundamentals. Awesome, awesome. Yes, yes, yes. Wonderful. Okay, so I had a couple questions there. Awesome, awesome. So learning the 7 basics, good websites to learn from. Awesome. These are great questions. I have a resource for the 7 basics I can share with you guys. Yeah, 30 to 40 hours a week for a boot camp is not enough. So Sasha had spoken up about that. I think in terms of boot camps, I think it depends on what you're learning, right? A lot of boot camps start with the JavaScript stack. They skip the fundamentals. They skip that problem solving and how to debug effectively. And those are so, so important. Once you have them, everything else gets easier. And so it depends. It depends on the style of learning, what they're doing. Awesome. Awesome. Love it. Love it. Cool. These are awesome questions. Keep them coming. Once you've mastered those 7 fundamentals, those 7 basics, we can deepen our problem solving skills with basic data structures and algorithms, leak code practice. And then we also want to start leveling up our development techniques to be the pro level. Some examples include, so just if you want to Google, I don't have time to talk in detail about them, with automated testing and design pattern techniques such as model view controller. And I am paying attention to the time. The moderator has reminded me. We've been taking questions as we go, but I do want to make sure I allow sufficient time for all the questions at the end. So I'm going to move forward. So you'll want to dive into a portfolio project. We've talked about that a lot. When you're working collaboratively, we really want to be using Git. It's the industry best practice. And so it leaves clues. When you're applying industry best practices, you're going to see it in the Git commit history. It's going to be there. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So there's a couple longer questions. I'm going to scroll back to those at the very end because I want to make sure we have adequate time for everybody. We want to practice our coding problems, polish our resume, practice interviews, apply, and don't forget to negotiate. We so want to negotiate. We definitely want to apply and land those jobs. Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. All right, cool. So really quickly, I do want to pay attention to the time. I want to make sure that you guys see how this can work for you, that you don't need to be a genius prodigy like Mozart to be awesome, an awesome 6-figure coder. So Mozart, for those of you that don't know, he composed his first piece of music at 5 years old. Now, do we enjoy the music of other people who didn't write it when they were 5? Maybe they wrote it when they were 25, 35, or 45. Yeah, totally. We totally enjoy that music. And so just because someone doesn't intuitively get how to code right away doesn't mean that they can't contribute. So I'd love to share a story with you of a former student of mine, because everybody has unique gifts to share. And this one is really, really great. So I have a student, Ida, a former student, and she is partially sighted. What that means is that she uses a seeing eye dog to navigate the world. But if she makes her text like super big on her computer, she can see. but a lot of times she uses a screen reader. So how many of you think it'd be challenging to learn to code if you couldn't really see the screen very well, right? Would that make it harder for you guys to learn how to code? For sure, right? Absolutely. So Ida could have left it at that and said, coding's not for me, but the world would have been robbed of her amazing, amazing contributions. So full disclosure, Ida stuck through, she mastered how to program, and she got a 6-figure job at Chase. And now she helps make software more accessible for others because she's attuned to that. And she helps those who can't see at all, who are completely blind, use their computers more effectively, right? So she had a unique gift. And while it was a little bit more difficult for her to learn to code, she did it. She mastered it, and she's helping others. And so I know that you all who are here, we all have unique gifts to share through coding. And if you're here, stick with it, because there's so many people in the world that are going to benefit from your unique perspective. So don't give up. Learn smarter, not harder. We talked about this already. So I do want to leave you with one thought, because if anybody can learn this, you can learn smarter, not harder, a couple hours a week, a couple hours a day, every week. What's the secret of success to becoming a 6-figure developer? It's actually showing up and practicing, right? Think about the LA Rams. They're a football team. They won the Super Bowl, the highest honor in American football this year. They had to show up to the Super Bowl. Not only did they have to show up to the Super Bowl to be able to win it, they had to practice over and over and over again, right? So we have to actually do the work. You have to show up and do the work, and that's the secret. And you can totally do it in 6 months. So for some, it might be faster, for some, it might be longer, but you can totally do this. And we can't just learn by watching videos, by watching others. We need to do it. Like, imagine learning to swim. Imagine learning to swim just by reading a book. Right? How successful would you be? Right? We need to actually do it and work with others. And you are absolutely the best investment. Oh, let's see. I think we've got someone unmuted. Yeah. Consistency is key, Christopher. Absolutely. So you are absolutely the best investment of both your time and your money. And I just want to take one more moment so that you can think about the cost of not investing in yourself. If you can become a 6-figure developer in 6 months, think about how that looks over the course of your career, right? Because 6-figure developers start at 6 figures, but within a couple of years, if you continue investing in yourself and your learning, you can be earning 200, 300K, 500K. The highest I've heard is 900K for a developer. Now I know that's the exception, but the idea is 6 figures is the entry level. It goes up from there. If you think of what you're earning now, compared to 6 figures that you could have, that's the cost of not taking action right now. You're literally spending a fortune by not setting aside this time, showing up for yourself, and doing the work. All right. Awesome. Cool. So we shared a bunch of awesome stuff today. And I want to wind it down because I see there's some amazing questions here that I want to get to. So just to recap really quickly, you don't need to be a genius to become a 6-figure coder. We talked about the 5 essentials that we want to learn and to land 6-figure coding jobs. Think ELITE, that was our acronym. In 6 months or less, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. We shared a 7-step roadmap to maximize your learning and avoid burnout. So you don't have to learn everything. It's about learning smarter, not harder. And no more excuses. Show up and do the work. That's my charge to you today, because you are the best investment and your gifts are worth sharing. If you think about how much we use software today, you've probably used software a dozen times already. Software is literally designing our lives. You should be designing some of that software. All right. Thank you so much. You have been an amazing audience. If you would like to learn more about what I do and becoming a 6-figure software developer, I have a free event. It's hosted in a couple weeks where I go into even more detail about what we talked about today. I'm sharing the link in the chat so you guys can see it. And I'm happy to continue the conversation. And also, I'm going to answer some of the questions that I saw popping up in the chat, but I also want to make sure that if for any reason you're watching this after the fact, or we don't have time to get to all your questions, we can absolutely continue the conversation on Codementor's website. Thank you. And thank you so much, Codementor, for making it possible for us to connect today. I just love it. Awesome. So Gary had a question about 7 basics. Awesome. I can talk about those. All righty. Let me see. I'm just scrolling back through some of the questions. So Michaela had asked about the 7 fundamentals in one language. When is it a good time to switch to another language with minimal confusion? Yes, absolutely. So with Python, you can master the 7 basics in about, as little as 3 weeks, maybe 2 months, right? Depending on the speed that you work. So 3 weeks for the 7 basics, and then you'd want to do some more advanced problem solving and practice problems. And so that's why it takes between 1 to 2 months for that. But then you can switch when you feel comfortable and confident. You're welcome to switch, and it doesn't need to take that long. It totally doesn't need to take that long. Awesome. For a person like me, so Gary is asking, for a person like me who's been developing front end for 3 years now, congratulations, Gary, rock on, and who knows much about the programming and development ecosystem, but still needs to go back to the basics, algorithms and data structures. What do I suggest? It's quite overwhelming. Yes, I get it. I totally get the data structures can be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be, right? I'm all about simplifying and learning smarter, not harder. So one book I really, really like for a resource is, I think it's a Common Sense Guide to Algorithms, because it teaches, and it's not tied to any one particular programming language. I think they use examples from Ruby and JavaScript, for example. And you don't have to know those languages, right? Because we're trying to focus on the fundamentals that cross-cut all programming languages. So it doesn't really matter, what the syntax is, where the curly braces go, where the semicolons go. So that's one way. But really, fundamentally, what you need for data structures and algorithms. So I think Sunny or someone earlier already mentioned trees, but stacks and queues, linked lists, stacks, queues, linked lists, trees, big O. That's basically what you need. Some understanding of sorting and searching, merge sort, binary search. That's like it, right? You don't need all of it. And then a lot of practice problems to kind of keep implementing those problem solving ideas. So it doesn't have to take a long time. And when I say, learn them, I mean, spend about 5 to 10 minutes watching a video, and then, a couple days implementing something relating to that, like a project. So a lot of doing. I really emphasize doing. I personally learn best by doing. So that's what I focus on. Thank you so much for these awesome questions, guys. In my opinion, diving into data structures and algorithms can be difficult for newcomers with no background. Yes, for sure. But if you've got the 7 fundamentals in the beginning for like about 3 weeks, then you can do data structures and algorithms for about 3 weeks, because really the point is the problem solving. Data structures and algorithms are just a vehicle for deepening your problem solving skills. And then we have another question from Babajide. My apologies if I'm not saying your name correctly. I've been coding for almost 2 years now. I was coding before I entered a 6-month boot camp, which finished in June last year. Congratulations. But after you finished the boot camp, got confidence to build anything. Good. So it was after I finished boot camp that I got the confidence to build anything. Okay, so the boot camp was not helpful in building that confidence. I'm sorry that was your experience. I get it. That happened to me too. Only I spent 4 years trying to get a college degree and not having the confidence either. Since then, I've worked with other developers to build some web apps. Awesome. And he's well above internship level, but for some reason, you've not been able to land regular coding gigs or a dev job. Awesome. So you got the confidence. That's awesome. I would look to see your GitHub profile. If you've got a record of commits and portfolio projects that showcase your skills, because when you're working at a super high level, at the 6-figure level, it leaves clues, it leaves traces. And so you'll want to look on that. Yes. And Christopher, yes, there is a link to the recording. Actually, the link I shared to Codementor will have the link to the recording as well, I believe. Cool. Oh, Stella already answered that. Awesome. You guys are awesome. Cool. I'm going to see. Yes. So bootcamp cost. So I don't offer bootcamp. I offer something called the Joy of Coding Academy, because it's more mentorship focused and it's custom. So because I focus on the foundations, I prepare people for careers in web development, mobile development, or data science. Happy to talk more. The masterclass actually is the best place to find out more, but please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to give you more information about that. And I also have a Facebook group where we can continue the conversation. And so Gary had asked what the 7 basics of programming that I spoke about. So just to recap, we'd mentioned that this alphabet of learning to code and reading code, what are these 7 basics? So I have, I think, let me see, joyofcoding.com. I think I can just share with you, joyofcoding.com. I'm typing this on the fly live. So if it doesn't work, my apologies. I'm pretty sure that's the link if you'd like to know more about the 7 basics. We've got variables, input, output, math and logic, loops, functions, lists, Uh-oh. See, now I'm forgetting my own list. This is why having that PDF is so helpful. There's one more. Sorry about that. there's one more. Variables, string. No, strings go with lists, and there might be data structures. It could be data structures as the seventh one. The big ones are loops and functions, and then data structures. Those are the ones where we spend the most time learning. Variables, we learn how to use them in conjunction with the others to master. Awesome. Awesome. So Stephen had asked, how do we connect with you? If you sign up for the masterclass, you'll be able to connect with me. If you get the 7 basics, you can connect with me. I have it. I don't know if I can pull it up this fast. I can try and, there's a Joy of Coding group on Facebook, I think, facebook.com/groups/joy of coding. I think that'll work. 404 not found. Sorry about that. Yep. Okay. We can try www. I will try and get that link to you. I can always post in the chat for Codementor because I don't want to go too much longer than our allotted time. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So Abdullah had said, would you say that living somewhere where the coding industry isn't great affects your career? That's a great question. There's remote jobs everywhere, but I'll be fully honest. And this ties back to Prem and Gary's questions about jobs and internships. Remote jobs are everywhere, but you're competing in the global marketplace. So they are the most competitive. You will find it easiest to get entry-level jobs locally because you're competing in a smaller pool, right? And in fact, let me, I'm going to stop my screen sharing so I can see you guys a little bit. Cool. And then maybe I can get these correct links for you. So sorry about that. Okay, awesome. And so you're going to have the most success getting an entry-level job locally. That's going to be the easiest. But that doesn't mean you can't get remote jobs. If you're willing to do something which is called climbing the freelance ladder, where you can get small jobs and then work your way up, that's also another way because those small jobs could all be remote. But it's a long road, right? Like I recommend targeting salaried jobs at the 6-figure level because those are the careers where they're going to invest in you, right? Like when you start at an entry level 40 to 60K job, they're not necessarily going to invest in you. You're a cog in a wheel. Whereas 6-figure developers, it doesn't take that much more to get that polish, but that investment, it pays off over the course of your entire career. So someone had asked about jobs and internships. And so what I always recommend to students is a warm job interview path. And so what does that look like? Is for that very first job to get your foot in the door, finding a connection with someone or some company. Maybe it's based on who you are. Maybe you have an outside set of skills that would make you an amazing fit. For example, I once had a student who got a medical degree and decided she didn't like the quality of life and wanted to be a coder. So she's specifically looking for coding jobs for medical research companies who want to do, medical based data research, data analysis. So like she's taking her domain knowledge she already has for something else, and she's translating it to get her the top qualification for a job because she has all this domain knowledge that it's prohibitively expensive to train a developer to have that knowledge. So she becomes a special commodity for them. So that's one way. Another way is a connection. Do you know someone who needs a software developer? Do you know someone who knows someone who has a development job and has openings? So those are the things that I usually try to nudge people towards. And you keep trying and you keep networking, you keep showing up. In the US, there's a lot of local meetup groups, although COVID has kind of messed this up a little bit. And that's another way that you can go about it. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So let me see. Awesome. Awesome. Cool, cool, cool. Sweet. So yeah, let's see. Being a junior developer doesn't mean you'll be in a smaller pool. It'll be the opposite. Awesome. Awesome. Right. But a local junior developer is going to be a smaller pool than a global junior developer, if this makes sense. Right. So I was responding to Vadzim's questions, but yes, absolutely. So the best way to, I have a link to my Facebook group. Okay. Here's the correct link to the Facebook group. That one should work. That one's tested. So you're welcome to join, and I have another link to the 7 basics. Let me just try this. This link should work. I think it was missing the www. Awesome. You're welcome. Thank you so much. I'm going to give this another shot. I think that's the 7 basics. They're posted in the group. There's links. You can always post in the comments. I'll make sure for the website for Codementor, I'd be happy to answer them. I think I've answered most questions because I know I know we're at time. Awesome. Thank you, Yahaya, for saying that it worked. So I have another question from Huda. What about test developers? Any ideas on how to improve myself? Awesome. Love it. I have a long history with testing and test automation. So that's awesome. So for test automation specifically, you still want to have a sense of problem solving, but you're going to want to focus more on investing in automated software development best practices and frameworks and learning to use those. To really invest in yourself and to move forward. So it's a little bit different of a focus, less problem solving, more automated, that testing piece. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Shelby. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I think I answered, let's see. Oh, Stephen also had a question. Akash, I'm sorry. I don't know about visa issues. I can't speak to those. So Stephen said he's been coding for 2+ years, but hasn't been able to land a dev gig or paid job or paid internship. What could he be doing wrong? So happy to help. If you, Stephen, there's a link to the group here. I'll share it here again, just to make sure you've got it. Here's a link to my Facebook group. If you want to post it in there, I'm happy to give you feedback on it. And I'm sure there's a ton of developers in there who can also give you that information as well. We're happy to give you feedback on that. Awesome. Oh, you're welcome, Yahaya. Thank you so much. And so Christopher, is a former SEO, you need to set up your site so it redirects to the www version if you enter it with your, yeah. I know. Yep. Some of them are set up properly and some of them are not. I can't remember off the fly. Awesome. Oh, and then I forgot the HTTPS when I posted the second group, but I'm assuming you guys can figure this out. Gary said, I also think that building content online through blogging can help shorten the conversation during a job search. So that's a great question, Gary. I have worked with students on blogging and getting themselves out there. I think the first step is being an awesome coder and showcasing that through your GitHub profile, through your commits, through your projects. Once you have that, if you want to go further, if you want to showcase that you're part of the global conversation, then I think working on a blog or maybe posting on Medium might be a great way to do that. And then for those of you that are struggling to get jobs, you could kind of niche into a particular area. Like, for example, Chrome extensions, super, super hot area. You might be able to work as a consultant. So you post on Medium, like how to leverage your business tenfold through a simple tech hack, right? That requires no work, but they pay you, so many thousands of dollars. Or maybe you work with local companies, you set up their web presence for them and they pay you a fee every month, but you only set it up once, right? And they pay you every month for that. There's other things you can do that don't require paid jobs to kind of get your foot in the door, get paid, and then you can translate it into that more stable salary job if you want to, or maybe it's so lucrative you don't need to. Should we only post big projects on GitHub? Stephen is asking. That's a great question. So what we want to post on GitHub is it doesn't have to be a lot. I do recommend if you have just like little itty bitty pieces of code that you're using, that like everybody might have, they're like cookie cutter projects that anyone might do. I wouldn't post those. I would focus on quality over quantity, posting, maybe 1 or 2, at most 3, really deep projects where you've gone deep and you've really worked hard on them, and they're going to really showcase your skills. Awesome. sixfiguredeveloper.com. Thank you, Yahaya. Awesome. Yes, that's the website to sign up to learn more. Love it. So Thomas is asking examples of good junior level GitHub profiles to look at. Ooh, I don't have any at my fingertips, but I'm happy to share those more, probably in the, again, in the Facebook group would be an awesome place for that. And I'm just going to post that in the chat. So there's lots of links, lots of options. You guys get to pick. And Sasha doesn't understand what service I'm promoting. No, so Codementor is awesome. They hosted this event today. I also offer training to help people become software developers in 6 months, 6-figure software developers in 6 months. And I'm happy to talk more about that particular training. But what I'm giving today, what I'm sharing, is general guidelines that anybody could follow to learn to become a 6-figure developer. Yes, Sasha. Yes, it's like coaching. Yes, that's what I do as well. And Aditi is asking, it's sometimes difficult to think what project to build. Absolutely. Hunt, use your network, see if anyone needs a project. That's a great way to get started. And I do know we're going to be cut off shortly. So I just want to make sure if there's any final questions, let's get them in. So I'll answer them. But then we have to say goodbye. Christopher suggested a GitHub hack: take notes in Markdown and commit those daily to a notes repo. This will make all those squares green. Yes, absolutely. Mojave is asking, does the mentorship also apply for complete beginners? Yes. So I've worked with hundreds of students, and many of them have never coded before. In fact, in my role as a professor, most of the students I would get didn't even think they would be computer scientists. They were music majors or history majors, or maybe they were physics majors. Could have been English majors. So I've worked with all varieties of people. Could open it, all good. Thank you. Tips for resume formatting. Oh, Gary, check out the page after the masterclass. I actually have advice on that. For resume formatting specifically. I don't think I have time to go in for it here. 1-page resume, 2-page maximum. Yes. Yeah. And there is a lot of information freely available online for that as well. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. You have been amazing. And thank you so much to Codementor for hosting this amazing event for us today and allowing us to get together. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to serve you all and to help guide you on your journey. Yes, special ed teacher, want to be in the dev community, Ruby, rock it. Awesome. Love it. Absolutely. So if you want to continue the conversation, please don't hesitate to post in the Codementor chat. I will share that link again. And then we've shared like a lot of links, but the main link, if you want to connect with me, is sixfiguresoftwaredeveloper.com. That would be the main one to do here. I'm going to post the Codementor one just last. Again, there you go, guys. Awesome. Awesome. Loving it. Journalism. Wonderful, guys. Have an awesome, awesome rest of your day. It has been so amazing getting to work with you, and good luck on everything. Take care.